going to steal the floor. I don't know why you're here.
Well, then I'm out. I got about 1,000 things to do. So you let me know when it's done. Cannon, you let me know.
Bryn, go. You're on. I'm going to take it out.
You are on. Take it, my friend.
I'm Josh Sigman.
And I'm Bryn Rouse.
I'm a mortgage guy with a passion for helping people with their money and all things business. Bryn is my co-host.
And I'm a marketing girl. I am literally obsessed with it. Oh, and Josh has showed me how to save money. Quite a bit, actually.
Because of her obsession, I hired her to do my marketing.
And we've worked together for 10 years.
We launched Sigman in 2020, a podcast about money. It's a podcast that teaches people how to save more, give more, create wealth, and retire early.
And we recorded and published 34 episodes. People liked it, and it was so fun.
But most importantly, we helped people. So we're excited to announce we're doing a second season. And we're mixing things up. We're moving away from money talks to focus on all things business. Leadership, management, team building, book reviews, hiring, firing, operations.
Motivating teams, lead generation, time management, personality profiling, closing skills.
And of course, money.
And marketing.
We are inviting you to continue this journey with us, and we want your input. What topics would you like to see covered? Email all of your ideas to our podcast email address, sigmansense@gmail.com.
And be sure to click that subscribe button when you visit our channels. You'll get notified when we drop new episodes.
Are you ready? Season 2, Getting Down to Business. Welcome to Sigman Sense. All right, welcome back to Sigman Sense. Finishing up the year. 2021's almost over. Just a couple last episodes here to knock out.
2021.
About, all things business. And so one of the things that came up that we wanted to talk about, which is so important in the grand scheme of things, is the importance of presentations.
Yes.
And I'm sure that some people that are listening to this are like getting squeamish and like, oh my God, I hate presentations. I hate being a public speaker.
Did you know that it's like the number one fear of all people?
Yeah, it's up there.
Public speaking, then death. Like it's something crazy like that.
What about being naked in front of people? That's up there somewhere too.
No, some of it, that's like exciting.
You're a freaking weirdo. That's why I like you. So the answer is that let's talk about why it's important to be a public speaker and how this applies. So we're actually talking about is presentations.
Yeah, it doesn't even have to be public.
It's not public speaking, but I want people to think of it the same way, because the better you get at presentations and public speaking over time, the bigger the audience, the more options you have, I believe, in all business. And so,
and I want to clarify too, it could be one-on-one
interviews. Presentation.
Complaining about something to a hotel.
Yep. The right way, where you actually get what you want out of it rather than just be a bitcher.
Which just happened yesterday to me.
You were being a Karen?
No, I was not being a Karen. I was being Karen's lovely stepsister.
See, I need to coach you on this. But
so
very seriously, let's talk about presentations. And there's lots of things. What I love about presentations in general is that it's a skill set that can be developed. And I find that, yes, there are a few people that just love the camera, love the stage, love all attention on them. And then there's most everybody else, including myself. And, there's a story that I've told a couple hundred times to make people laugh and get myself in the rhythm of public speaking when I know I've got a big crowd and I'm nervous about it. And really, it's I was for sure an introvert, and I for sure did not like people looking at me. And for sure, long time ago, I kind of caught on fire in in a science class, and I had to take my clothes off in front of the rest of the class. And so that is a true story. I'm sure I'll tell that whole story at a different time. But I really have not enjoyed public speaking for many years afterwards, or having eyes on me in any way, shape, or form. And it's funny that I'm doing a podcast now, and you think, oh, he wants attention. It's like, no, actually, I've never watched one of my podcasts ever. I've never watched one of the videos I've recorded ever.
So weird.
It is weird, but it makes me nervous. I know that getting content out is important to business. I know that helping people is important to me. And so again, going back to where I started, it is very important to work on your presentation skills, because your audience and options gets bigger over time, right?
Yes.
And so what are we going to cover today? I think we talk about everything from, yes, the one-on-one stuff. So we got to talk about preparation and the pros and cons of being uber prepared versus having bullet points and different styles there. We got to talk about if you are in front of people, eye contact and the nonverbals, everything from energy and inflection and tonality and dramatic pauses, and reading the room and being willing to change and all that kind of stuff is super important. I think that when it comes to presentation, we got to talk about 4, 3, 2, 1 from our good friend, Mr. Avery.
Yep.
The 4, 3, 2, 1 is a couple of rules to live by to be prepared for any kind of business meeting or chance meeting even. And so we'll talk about that for sure.
And the one you haven't mentioned yet, which I can't believe because it's normally the first one you mention, is to be real, share pain.
Be real, share pain. Absolutely. So let's talk about all of it. And where do you think we should start?
I have no idea. Let's see. I think we should start with preparation.
Okay. I love that.
Seems like the
Logical
place to start.
So let's talk about this for a second. So I'm going to give I'm a very abbreviated in my preparation compared to a lot of people.
Yes.
And so mind you that my personality type is a DI. So I'm a bull point oriented, very focused on time. Time is a priority of mine. So I assume it is for other people as well. And then I'm an I, so I'm more about the relationship than I am about the details. And so my style of preparation has changed. And it changed because I was corrected by one of my first coaches, Rick Ruby, when it comes to public speaking. And so my old style was if I had to write a speech for high school or college or, I was going to go to a B&I group, I literally, whatever the subject was I was going to speak on, I would literally write out every single word to a presentation.
Right.
And I literally would show up with 15 pages and I would read it enough times that I felt like I was a good presenter because I'd look down and read, 75% of this.
And then look up really quick.
And then look up so people felt like I was getting eye contact and they go back down to reading again. And if you've ever been in a meeting like that, it sucks ass.
Oh, it's terrible.
So I did not realize how poor at that I was.
So terrible.
And so, but, do I think you should prepare? Of course, the more at stake, the more you probably should prepare. But I always start with right now, only speak about things that you know and do.
I have that asterisk,
Yep.
Which is where I do think that when we have to present in college or school or whatever, we get a little screwed because we don't really know that stuff yet.
Yep.
So it's just about having to present something. So, but yes, as long as you're talking about what you know, whew.
And what you do. What you know, what you do. Like
yes.
One of my styles of coaching is I only coach on things I actually do. When we talk about marketing calendars that you do, you coach on what we actually do, not what we think we should do.
Right.
And so I think that's really important. When people get caught, and like one of my biggest nightmares I can think of that would be possible would be to be stumped. Like if I'm doing a presentation in front of a paying audience as an example, and somebody asks me a question about my craft and I don't know the answer in front of 100 people or 1,000 people, that's pretty much my worst nightmare, right?
Yeah.
So I just don't open it up to that. I only talk about what I know and what I do and what I know to be true. And I literally would say that is not my expertise.
Right.
And I don't try to answer the question if it's not something that I really understand. And I think that's a big piece. So of course, the more knowledge you have in an area, the better off you're going to be. But then what do you do with that? And here's the second step for me. Second step is I want to organize my thoughts of a presentation like a story, right? Because keeping attention spans is difficult for a lot of people, and especially since your style of speaking or your southern drawl or your speed and cadence might not be effective for the listener, or they might just be tired. Then it's really important to do the entire presentation keeping a storyline in mind, meaning there's a normal beginning, a good opener to kind of catch somebody's attention. There's the meat and potatoes, the building the thoughts, the creating the issues, creating the solutions, and then you have to bring it home, like whatever the call to action is. For example, if you're in an interview, if you don't leave the last words out of your mouth saying, "I really want the job," I promise you're making a mistake, right?
Right.
So what's the intro to you and your life? What are the salient facts that you want somebody to know about you? How do you build the case that you're the right person for the job? And then the finale of, my God, I like you. Do you like me? Because I really want this job. And please stop interviewing other people.
Yeah.
Like that is what I mean by creating a storyline. When you think in terms of speaking about a book that you wrote or pitching a invention that you came up with, right? It's got to be the same thing. It's the introduction, it's building the case, and it's the conclusion.
Right.
And it's got to be read like a book or watched like a story.
Yeah.
or like a movie,
point.
right?
Yeah.
So, I also think that too much information is a big mistake that a lot of people do.
A lot, yeah.
What I was taught is that when you present too much information about something, it's because of your insecurities that you're not bringing enough value.
Yes.
And so you keep on and this and this and this, and you'll notice at the end of a speech or a presentation, the person that it feels like the first 3/4 of the speech were well thought out and going really well. And then the last 5 minutes, all of a sudden they throw in like 30 more things that you don't really get any clarity on. And you're like, it leaves you hanging. That's evidence of they didn't feel like they added enough value in the presentation in the first place, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Jim Reed, one of my best buddies in the world, literally told me, dude, you get up on stage, you tell people what you're going to teach them, tell them the 3 things you're going to teach them those 3 things at the end of them, ask them if they learned the 3 things that you taught them, right? Like, hey, I'm going to get up here, I'm going to tell you about
really
1, 2, and 3.
simple.
Yeah. And I'll tell you that as simple as that thought process is, hey, here's the 3 things I'm going to teach you today. Talk about those 3 things. Did you learn about these 3 things? That's what I taught you. You're probably going to work out okay.
I mean, most times we overthink just about everything.
Yeah.
So the more simple you can keep it, the better. And I know for sure for me, that has been the hardest thing. That in combination with timing of like, what's the accurate amount of time
Oh, interesting.
per subject or whatever. Like if I have an hour, I don't know how much content it takes me to get through an hour.
I love that.
So that's another big one.
That's a little asterisk. So let's talk about that for a second because I think it's worth listening to. How long are our meetings scheduled for? Like at our company, how long are a typical meetings scheduled for?
An hour.
How long do they typically take?
An hour.
Or
55 minutes.
or less, or less, right? Here's what I mean by that. I've had meetings that were scheduled for an hour that lasted 20 minutes, and a lot that are 45 minutes, and then plenty that lasted the full hour, and very, 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 very few as a percentage of all the meetings I've ever done
that have gone
last
over.
past it, right? What the point is that when you're done, you're done.
Right.
Because people can tell as well. That's where people start grasping for additional data. Oh my God,
Right.
I've got 10 minutes left. Now I've got to fill the time.
Now I got to fill the time.
Nope, just be done.
Just be done.
The gift of time for the last 10 minutes is a wonderful gift that most of us would take from you, right?
Abso-freaking-lutely. Yes. 100%.
Sorry, that was a good asterisk though, based on what you just said there. So, so finishing up my thought process on preparation. There's 2 pieces at the very end that I do that is very subtle that most people don't look at. Number 1 is I qualify my audience.
Oh, that's where I was going to
Yeah,
go too.
so-
I got to know who is in the room.
Yep, I think it's super important. So I'm a lender. Imagine me speaking to a bunch of realtors, right? Not all realtors are equal. Some are in the business for 30 days, some are 3 years, and some are 30 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what I might be prepared to speak on might not be relevant to the audience if I don't take the damn time to ask. I get paid to professionally speak all over the place, and I love it when I have a lunch or a coffee before the speech, because whoever's at the table, I ask him, hey, out of curiosity, what are you hoping to get out of the speech? What are you hoping to get out of the speech? What are you hoping to get out of the speech? And I will for sure switch and add or subtract based on what the feedback is, because I want to qualify my audience. Because I want to qualify. I love that, Ken. Do you want to keep it going? That's good. That's good background music. Just joking.
It was very nice.
So the qualifying the audience is a nuance I think is super important. So it's if you're going in blind and you don't have the opportunity to talk to somebody, then whoever invited you, whether it's the interviewer or the project manager, ask in advance.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Totally.
hey, how much information would you like? Because I could talk about this for days.
Yeah.
How much time do I have? What's the most important thing for your decision that you're going to be making? What are you looking for in the presentation?
Mm-hmm.
What's the next step, right?
Yep.
Because if you don't understand that you can't build it out the 30 minutes or
Right.
the hour, and the last thing you want to be doing is have an hour speech prepared or presentation prepared, and they give you 15 minutes.
Oh,
You're in
man.
a lot of trouble. You're in a lot of trouble if that's the case, right?
Yes.
So that qualifying is that second to last step for me. The last step is that I do actually practice at least one run through in my room before I do a speech or a presentation. I do one run through, and the reason is that I want it to be familiar to me, because I want to have bullet points laid out in front of me about where I want this conversation to
Yes.
go.
Yeah.
But I don't want to be reading my bullet points at all. I want to have a reference of, if I got lost, I go back to my bullet points. Okay, that's where I'm at, and keep going.
Right.
But I want to have already gone through it in my mind, so see if it sounds like a storyline or if it feels really choppy,
Yep.
right? So for
I
me,
love
that's how
it.
I prepare. How do you prepare?
Basically all the same things. For me, I write down, I start with the basic bullet points, usually 3 or 4. And then for myself, I do probably 3 or 4 bullet points underneath each one that are reminders, like little trigger words.
Key things you want to cover.
Yes, like you need, you know, cover this, cover that. And then usually there's some asterisks off to the side of like, you know, if it goes this direction, or, you know, just other little helpful reminders. But normally I don't have those things in my hands.
Right.
Most of the time they're off somewhere to the side, like, you know, on a podium or on a table. So also a great time to kind of take a drink of water, review, just take a quick glance at my notes, and then I can continue, make sure that I'm covering and staying on track. I do not do a full run through out loud. I 100% do run throughs in my head multiple times to make sure that, again, that I'm comfortable and confident with what I want the points to be, basically.
I would also make an asterisk here around, you know, do not waste an hour of time or 2 hours time on a presentation that has no payoff. Like, as a business person, as a professional coach,
as the speaker,
like, let's use this podcast as an example, right? We prepare a little bit before each presentation or each podcast because we want to make sure that there's value that's added. But it takes like 10 minutes to talk about what we know, create the bullet points, what's the flow going to look like. And we have a rough time frame of 40 minutes to an hour and 15 minutes that we need to fill. But like, I'll just give you an example. Let's just read what bullet points that we wrote down in the 5 minutes ahead of time. Presentations, 4, 3, 2, 1. Going to cover that for sure. Verbals versus non-verbals, time, pauses, tonality, energy, eye contact, start and stop. I don't know what you just wrote there. Be real, share pain, story style, right? So the point is it's a reference, but there's no, for people that are watching YouTube, there's no details past that. Again, going back to, we're only going to talk about what we know and actually do, not what we were told once a long time ago or read in a book.
For sure.
So from a preparation perspective, I think that's really important to understand. If you have a lot on the line, like you are trying to get an investor to invest millions of dollars into a great idea or company that you have, please, for the love of God, spend some time up front. Make sure that you have it dialed in, because one thing that Ryan Avery taught me years ago is that confidence demonstrates competence.
Yes.
So when you are secure in your presentation because of your preparation, then you're going to come off as a professional that people will bet on, and they'll put money behind you, or they won't. You get the best idea in the world, and if you're one of those kind of shaky critters, like all of us know what I'm talking about.
Shaky critters.
You know, you look somebody and they're like not looking you back in the eyes. They're stuttering a lot. How much are you asking for? $1 million? No, that's the answer,
that's
right?
A hard no.
So it's something that's really important to understand, that if you got a lot on the line, then you better put some time into it ahead of time, so you're not practicing on the people you're trying to sell or convince of an idea or a product. Right?
But I think too, I mean, you kind of mentioned it earlier, like running team meetings, running company meetings, running sales meetings. If you're a realtor, which we obviously, you know, work with a lot of realtors, presenting a listing presentation, presenting a buyer presentation. I have family meetings because I'm a huge nerd, but like Randy and I do sit down and say, here's what we need to talk to these freaking kids about. Like, here's what's pissing us off right now. Or here's where we want this next year to look like with us. Like, you know, you have
That's
to,
pretty cool.
you gotta, there's all kinds of presentations. And we jokingly talked about earlier, I did just get back from a trip to Nashville, had the opportunity to stay in 2 different hotels. First one was great. The second one was horrendous. And it's a one that I've been to before. And the last time was fabulous. And so I felt so slighted, but I also felt like there was this a duty of mine to like share my experience and how different the 2 have been. And so I did get a chance to talk to the manager, and I feel like I presented my case very well. I was not rude. I wasn't mad. I basically just said, you know, I feel like you deserve to hear some feedback. And as a result, I mean, they comped a whole night, which is not what I did not ask for anything, but I I feel like I presented it in a respectful enough way that it got me something. So no, I was not a Karen. I was a unpaid consultant.
I love that. I love that. So presentation. So you got some preparation going. I feel compelled to start with, let's talk about, let's do public speaking because it's the hardest one to deal with.
Yes.
But there's some really good bullet points that you can kind of rattle off, that we can both rattle off, as far as when you watch public speakers, and you can YouTube this and just kind of pay attention. There's some things that better speakers do than others. And the others that follow that category, what's interesting to me is that it's usually annoying tics that are what take away from the message, right? Quite often the content could be crappy, but if the presentation is excellent, then people are engaged.
100%.
On the flip side, the content can be perfect, and your non-verbals can really destroy an overall presentation and take it away.
Yeah.
So, I mean, do you find that to be true?
Like more than true. It's almost sad that you're.
I should care about this, but I can't even watch. It's like a train wreck.
Yes, because it's just so bad that all I can watch is how uncomfortable or nervous or whatever the presenter is giving, or how over time we are, or just it can totally kill any presentation.
So having given thousands of presentations this time, I think what will be fun for us is, let's start with, this is ad-lib by the way, let's start with some things that you've seen, observations of presenters that totally take away from the message, because people, like, I've gotten feedback from other professional presenters, on what I'm doing, so I can stop it. So we're going to list off some things with the hope that if you're like, yeah, that's probably me, if you're more aware of it, you're more likely to fix it.
Right. Okay.
So I would start with pacing. So one of the things that really annoys the crap out of me is the lion pace. So you picture somebody on the stage, and they literally walk from one side to the other, back to the other side, back to the other side, back to the other side, back to the other side. And what's worse is that if they have a TV camera on them.
I was going to say, any candidate, it's just
well,
from this.
What ends up happening is that they look up, if you're in the crowd and you're looking up at the two screens on the sides of the presenter, then it just, like, you almost get dizzy because all you see is people moving back and forth, and like all of a sudden you're like, you look down because you can't stand looking at them anymore.
I can't handle.
So that would be one for me, that walk to a point, stay there for a while, take a look around, enjoy the view, right? And then, of course, don't ignore the other half. So take another couple steps. Enjoy the view. Take a moment. It's okay. You don't need to pace like a lion. What's something else that really detracts from a message?
Oh, what really detracts from a message probably is the over explaining of the message.
Okay. So the person that makes a point, then remakes the point, then resells the point, then sells the sell of the point.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So state the point. Build a case.
Assume we're all intelligent human beings and move the fuck on.
I love that.
It drives me crazy.
One for me is monotone.
What do you mean? I don't understand. Tell me more about it.
Oh my God. And I've been guilty of this in my past, but the same tone, same tempo, same sound over and over and over and over and over and over. And I actually disinflected a little bit, and that was on accident.
And that was on accident. You're like, I can't be monophone.
Right, I can't even do that anymore.
Even if I tried.
Right. But if you listen to somebody that's just monotone forever, it will absolutely destroy the
I'm
message.
I'm like instantly sweating because I have a lot of monotone that happens around me in my life.
Okay.
It gets me very, oh my gosh.
So what else?
What else? We kind of talked about it already, but going over the allotted amount of time.
Going over time, yeah. Please pay attention to what you just said. We would rather you finish on time and not finish your entire message than go over and finish it. I promise you that's the truth.
Yes.
Right? For me, this is both in person, in interviews or one-on-one, as well as on stage. Eye contact. Now, let me tell you this right now. I've got a little boy that's suiting my daughter, right? Like some little high school love going on, right? And I'll tell you the fastest way to get your ass killed if you're trying to date my daughter is don't look me in the eyes. I don't trust you if you don't look me in the eyes.
Right. I don't trust you even if you do, but if you don't,
for sure you're gone, right?
For sure you're out of here.
I got to tell you that this little guy that's dating my daughter right now, he's got good eye contact. He shakes your hands, look you in the eyes, but don't think that doesn't apply on stage either, right? So, we already said earlier, don't just sit there and read the notes.
Don't read the notes.
Because what that's telling, because remember, eye contact is a trust thing in the real world, in the one-on-one world. So if you're reading notes, what you're not doing is look at the audience. The audience doesn't trust that you know what the hell you're talking about.
Right.
So it's the constant gazing, the constant, find somebody, look them in the eyes, speak to them individually for 3 seconds. Find somebody, look them in the eyes, talk to them for 3 seconds. Find somebody, and make sure you're going all the way back and all the way down, especially if you're on a stage scenario, especially if there's cameras. If a camera's on the backside of a room looking at you and you are looking down, talking to people in the front the entire time because that's where the lights are, the problem is you're never looking to the back
up,
and you're never giving the camera eye contact.
Yeah.
So it's just eye contact does matter even when you're in a big forum.
My next one was going to be not recognizing the blind spots.
Oh, blind spots. Okay.
So kind of goes into what you're talking about, but I'm thinking more of like, we're not on camera, we're in a smaller room, and there's only a wedge of people that are being spoken to. So everybody outside of the peripheral vision that you have is not a part of the conversation.
Love it.
And that gets really old if you're in one of those areas, for sure.
Nervous tics. Dudes, do not play with change or keys in your pockets.
Remove them all.
Do not play with change or keys in your pockets. It looks like you're playing with yourself. I promise that's all everyone's listening to and watching. They're not listening to your message. They're watching you play with yourself. It will take away from the message. I'm not wrong.
You're not wrong. Oh, what is it? Let's see. What's another one of mine?
Guys are looking away. Girls are looking. That's what's happening. But I'll tell you the truth, though, is the nervous tics, like you do that one all the time.
Right. That's why that's exactly what I was leading
into. You do
into.
that. It drives me effing nuts.
I know.
You sit there and play with this, and then you play with your hair.
But it's not.
You do.
The thing is, I don't think they're nervous tics.
Oh, they are.
I'm not nervous when I'm doing them. What do I look nervous?
Kenna, do you think she looks nervous?
What do you mean?
It looks nervous, right?
It's part of, and this Zoom has taught me this. I'm like, I really enjoy this.
Because you're looking at yourself in the Zoom meeting?
No, it's like calming. So it's like part of me listening.
Calming the nervous tick.
I'm not nervous when I'm
Why do you need to be calm then?
One of the because I'm like listening. And the other thing I like to do is see how tight I can tie the knot.
So
with my
it
own
goes back to for all of you watching, it's a nervous tick. It'll distract from the message.
Like, look how tight I got it. And it comes right back out.
But seriously, paying attention to nervous tics. So a lot of women will play with jewelry around their neck.
That is very true, though.
They'll kind of center the medallion or get the little clasp on the back of their neck. I see that a lot. You see people that have loose bracelets or loose watches that they're constantly fidgeting with their watch or bracelet. And to that note, don't look at your watch the entire time when you have an hour to speak to make sure you're on track. Put it on a table in front of you that you can look down quickly at.
Yeah.
But you look at your watch is distracting because then everyone else thinks, well, shit, how much time do we have?
Yes. Then this isn't really a tic, but again, none of mine are. Where something that you're very, very comfortable in and feel great in. That helps a lot.
That's
you
thing.
really gotta whatever you're gonna wear, especially for women, with heels. And this, I'm short, I'm 5'2", so if I'm going to be on the ground or not on stage, I've got to wear really high heels. So I got to make sure that I can wear the high heels that I can actually freaking walk in.
Yep.
I'm not going to eat shit on stage because that would be
And I'll
very
take that a step further. So let's just say you're speaking to a room, but you're 5'0", like Bryn.
You just took 2 inches off.
Are you 5'2"?
I just said I was 5'2".
Well, you're shrinking. Every year that goes by, you get short. I'm just letting you know. I am too. Don't worry. So I'm like 6'9" now. Or 6'5". I'm just joking. My point is that one of the things I had to coach Bryn on as an example very, very early on, I mean, this is a decade ago, 12 years ago, is when people are sitting in a room and you are shorter than the average, then they can't see you.
They cannot see
And so
you.
if there's a tall dude or woman sitting in the front of the room and you got some shorter people sitting in the back of the room and you happen to be short, you have to recognize that before you go to the presentation and put some high-ass heels on.
You really do.
Or boots on just so you stand up a little bit higher because I will tell you that there is an advantage to taller people that they command an audience easier.
Yes.
It does not mean that short people can't. So
no, it's
a real thing.
Let me tell you what it's like to be 5'2" in a conversation of a group of 6'5" people. You truly do not exist, because there's no reason to look down. Like 5'2", 6'5". If they've got anybody else 6'5" or better or same, like, you don't exist. And so the same thing happens when you're presenting. But the thing is too, you also have to move through the room.
That's a big tip. Listen to Bryn here.
Yeah, you gotta move. You gotta move through the room, that's where it gets very critical that you wear shoes that you can walk in.
What you're getting at, and what this is the critical piece I want people to understand, is you got to read the room. You have to read the energy. Okay.
Yes.
So, for example, one of the little tricks of the trade that I've done for years, and Bryn does too, is if we've lost somebody in the back of the room, just go stand next to them.
Stand next to them.
If somebody is being disruptive and texting or messing around their computer in the back of the room, if you go stand next to them, they stop texting. It's really weird.
I mean, that doesn't ever happen to me. Mine are always really, everybody's always super
entertained. If you have two people that are talking in the back of the room, go stand between them. They'll stop talking.
Yes.
But it's about moving between and opening it up, and that way you're engaging people in the back the same as you're engaging people in the front. And with that energy piece too, this goes back to, if you're actually looking people in the eyes, you will feel when you are losing people.
Yes.
Right? So don't keep talking about what you're talking about.
Right.
If you've lost people, change it, mix it up, get loud, like re-engage, ask a question, do table work, do anything to mix it up to get the energy changed.
That's a huge tip, is your table work. But before we go there, as far as preparation, asking what the setup of the room is going to be ahead of time. And am I going to have a podium, a lanyard, a microphone that is corded or non-corded? Because that,
AV.
I mean, that is super, super important. And I did have someone, it wasn't you though, it was someone else that was helping me with public speaking. Maybe Ryan Avery, I can't remember. Tell him what you want. Like, he said, request a lanyard, like request one. And especially because in the specific setting, it was like, 10 chairs on each side of the room with one aisle, and it was like 20 rows deep. And that's where we talk about, like, my short ass, it has no chance of getting the attention of the people in the back of the room. I have to be able to walk back there, and with a corded mic is not gonna work.
We could also just get you a box. We could have you stand on a box.
Stand on a box. A moving box. A rolling box. And I can just roll around.
Or you could get one of those. No. What about one of those? What are those things with two wheels that you stand on? The kids like them. They just kind of.
Oh, the hoverboard.
Is it a hoverboard? I don't think it's a hoverboard. Is it a hoverboard?
I mean, I don't know, because that'd
be
the
awesome,
most
because
terrifying.
You can lean forward like Superwoman and just kind of drift to the back of the room.
I mean, I feel like a Segway would be more fun.
That'd be kind of cool. It'd be distracting though. So we digress, but preparation. I love what Bryn just brought up. If you have a better feel for what the layout's going to be, what the room's going to be, who the audience is, if are you interviewing with one person or multiple people? Mm-hmm. If you're in a presentation to sell something, are you with the decision maker, or are you with are you meeting with the person that is the in between to the decision maker, right?
Yeah.
Because you can then better prep yourself, your speech, all those things. Down to, let me take it one step further. If the gatekeeper says no most of the time in a big industry, then maybe you should prep on what is the gatekeeper like. Yeah. Like, this is a little bit of start kissing their ass, find out what their name is, Facebook stalk them a little bit, find out when their birthday is, send them a birthday present, bring them flowers if they're not married, like all those things, right? My point is that a little bit of preparation goes a long way quite often, right?
It really does.
So let's take this to the next little piece. Let's talk about, I want to finish in 4, 3, 2, 1. What in your bullet points? What would be the next logical step after preparation?
Well, so I feel like with preparation, we kind of talked about the tonality and the pauses, kind of energy levels.
Yeah, that's another tip we didn't specifically talk about.
We talked about eye contact. We talked about pacing.
Well, what we did talk about is all the things that don't work. Let's just make sure we don't miss anything. So some good tips of great speakers that do work. One that you just listed off was dramatic pauses, right? So
Which, as a speaker, is very uncomfortable.
very difficult. Yeah,
Very uncomfortable. So when people pull it off very well,
it's noticeable.
yes,
Yeah.
and it just like it steals my heart.
Yep. So dramatic pauses can start as early as before you speak.
Literally.
Literally, there's a concept called the lion's gaze.
Which is another one of Ryan Avery's things.
Yeah.
You
By
know,
the way, Ryan Avery's a great public speaker, so I would recommend it to anyone to look him up and follow his stuff if you're interested in this kind of stuff. But yeah, what he talks about is the lion gaze, and what the lion gaze is let's say that you, it's your turn to speak, it's your turn to go, and let's just say that you are a teacher and you've got kids in your damn room, and there's kids are unruly and disrespectful little a-holes these days, it seems like, or it's a presentation to 15 people or coworkers that are still, just chit-chatting around the coffee machine. It doesn't matter. When it's time for you to go, if you say, hey, let's go ahead and get started, and people don't listen, just sit there and be quiet. And people will start looking at you, just staring at them, and you're being silent, and they're watching, and it makes them uncomfortable.
It's real uncomfortable too on my, for me it is. It may not be for you. It is
I've gotten
really
way better at it. I'll just sit there and stare at people, and like, whenever you're ready, I'll just sit here.
It's really hard for me.
But when
it's
you
very
successfully
effective.
pull that off, the effectiveness of it, it is another way to further demonstrate confidence, because it is unnatural to be quiet around people. It is an unnatural feeling. So if you can, when you're making a point and you're trying to drive it home, and you say something that is important, and you stop and let people just kind of sit on that and think about it and write it down, it's really something that takes your speaking to the next level.
Really and truly.
So, and that goes even to slowing down tempo, speeding up tempo, slowing down tempo. Like, hey, I really want you to listen to the next thing I'm about to say. The most important thing is blank. People will pay attention because you changed your tempo or you paused altogether. So it's a very effective tool. You brought up earlier, another thing that's super important is being real and sharing pain. Holy cow. Being real and sharing pain is, I am so sick and tired of the crap that most, not all people post on the internet or on social pages about the perfect lives that everyone has. And I appreciate the keeping in touch with my family, and I want to see, I don't want to see your family crying. I get that. But when professionals and athletes and all these, and the leaders, quote unquote, of the world are only showing what's going well in their world, and they never are real or share pain. They're not relatable. So the point here is that if you can bring yourself down to normalcy and not be just the guy, the ivory tower on stage, and say, look at me, I'm the best. But hey, listen, I made the same mistakes. What I'm going to teach you today are 10 things that I did wrong so that you can get to the finish line faster. Right.
Because it is automatically assumed that the person on stage or the person speaking is the most knowledgeable, the best, and that may not necessarily be the case.
It's not normal for people to share their fears and their heartaches and their mistakes. In fact, it's funny. You told me for season 1 for the All Things Money, what was one of the most watched episodes of season 1 that had to do with sharing pain? Do you remember? I remember vividly. I was like, no kidding.
Well, to date, it's the marriage and the one about marriage. No, that one actually still is things to talk about before you get married. A very good episode, people.
But that's not the one.
That's not the one. Is all the shitty investments.
10 ways to lose money. All the shitty ways to fuck up and lose money. So guess what? People have got lots and lots and lots and lots of episodes about how to make money, and the one most watched is the one of how I fucked up. That is being real and sharing pain. Let me say this again. Be real. Share pain.
Yes.
People can relate.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
And so that is a very powerful tool. So if you are trying to sell a product, you talk about why the last one didn't work. I don't want to waste your time today, Bryn. It's funny. I pushed this product for the last 5 years, and this product it failed because I didn't recognize A, B, and C. These are the mistakes that our company made. As a result of listening to our clients, this is what the changes are, so we don't have the same mistakes moving forward. Can I earn your business, right?
Yeah.
Whatever that sounds like, it's don't ignore the pain and heartache, because people love the gladiator story, right? They want the hero to have adversity, overcome it, and then get to the solution and learn something through the process. That hero's kind of arc or that hero's story is very effective in presentations.
Yeah. One thing I've started doing probably over the last year or year and a half is if I'm, selling a business partner or trying to earn a business partner's business or a realtor's business, is telling them through the process where things are, if it's going to suck, this is where it's going to suck. This is where it's going to be hard for you using us as a new lender. So telling them the pain points and that here's how to handle it when we get there.
I love that.
So that you don't run the other direction.
I'll give you another example because, you made me think about the same thing in my presentation. So when I'm talking to clients, they've got a famous airplane ride conversation I've done for 15 years, right? So every lender is so good at saying, we're the best, we're going to do everything perfect, use us, we're perfect. And what I literally do before I finish up my loan application, I say, listen, the mortgage industry is really tough. We're going to take your firstborn child in a blood sample. For sure, it's going to suck, right? So the analogy I use is kind of like an airplane ride. I want you to expect turbulence. No, I'm a great pilot. I'll land the plane, but there's going to be lots of bumps and bruises along the way. Like you're going to get audited the day before closing, make sure they're gainfully employed. They're going to repull your credit to make sure you don't open new debts. So they're going to ask you about this large deposit, this small deposit, and this medium deposit over the last 30 days.
Yeah.
There's lots of ways that they're going to frustrate you. Just know that we're really good at what we do, and we'll get you to the finish line, right?
Yep.
So in that that's a one-on-one presentation to a client that's buying a home to explain the reality of the mortgage world, right? You're talking about how to earn a client's business is based on past experience. We're really great in these areas. This is something that's new to some people.
Right.
So this could be a pain point for you, but if that happens, call me and I'll just, this is normal. We'll work through it, right? So being real and sharing pain is a super, not just impactful, but important piece of the process.
Totally.
To being listened to and more importantly, heard.
And trusted, I think, I think it builds a huge amount of trust.
Another, asterisk or something I would recommend that anyone that's thinking about doing a presentation or doing an interview just needs to read 100 times before they walk into that presentation, interview, or public speaking scenario is you got to remember that confidence demonstrates competence. Confidence demonstrates competence. Confidence demonstrates competence. Okay.
And so what are some things what does confidence look like?
So that's a great question. What does confidence not look like is stepping backwards. What does confidence look like? You step forward. What do not confident people do? They stand at the back of the stage. Confident people stand at the front of the stage. In an interview, confident people lean forward. People that aren't confident cross their arms, cross their chest to protect themselves, right?
Please go.
Right. So they look like they're cold if you're trying to picture that.
Strong handshakes.
Strong handshakes versus like flimsy dead fish in somebody's hand.
And I feel like we all need to add that to our parental checklist of things they must learn.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so proud. 2 of my 3 kids won the handshake contest for their grade levels at Garden Ridge Elementary School. Yeah.
What a great contest.
They do it every year, and
oh my gosh,
it's literally the whole school, and every class votes, or the teachers vote on the best handshake of the class, and they all compete.
I love that.
Cool. I know Mason won for sure. I think Aubrey was like runner up or something like that.
That's fantastic.
But yeah, so
smile,
yep.
Smiling,
eye contact
with people, asking questions. Tell me about the space. Tell me about your audience. Tell me about why you're doing this. What's the purpose of this?
Don't underestimate dress. Right? Dress not just to impress, but dress for the job you want.
Yeah.
Right? All those things say a lot about you, which are the nonverbals.
Yes.
What else would show that you are confident? What are we missing? Because I think we just listed off a good half dozen, but what else would you say?
An organized, I do think that explaining the organization of what to expect over the next 30 minutes or hour. And I'm talking even specifically on one-on-ones, specifically in an interview. It doesn't have to be on stage presenting to a lot of people. The first thing I want to do is learn a little bit about you. The second thing is I want to hear why you feel like you're qualified for the position. Yep. I want to hear what you think you're interviewing for. I want to tell you a little bit more about our team, and then we'll wrap it up and we'll follow up with next steps.
I love that. And actually what you just did was ask a lot of questions. And this is something to remember. Whoever's asking the questions is in control. So it's a good reminder. It's an easy way to kind of put yourself in the driver's seat, which will help you build confidence, is have some very well-prepared questions that are important.
Yeah.
Right?
I think those are good. Anything else? Cannon, what did we miss?
Cannon,
What did we
for
miss? He's like,
You talked about, where you're comfortable in. It's interesting to me, like how many people in an interview scenario will wear something they'll never wear ever again. It's almost like they're going to a wedding and that's not who they are.
Yes.
I've gotten the habit of almost every day wearing exactly what you're going to see on the weekend.
Yeah.
Because I want people to work with me and like me for who I am, not who I pretend to be.
I mean, if you're comfortable, you are going to be better received, I guess is the best way to say it. Women, I feel like men have it way easier than women, but I could be wrong. But like I did ask Randy the other day, I said, are suits comfortable? And he was like, I mean, yeah, for the most part, they're pretty comfortable unless you get hot. But yeah, like you get to wear flat shoes all the damn time. That's bullshit. That's not fair. Although now, because sneakers are just like the thing, and with, working from home, thank goodness, I'm much more comfortable in sneakers and I can get a hell of a lot more done. Heels suck. Spanx, bras, jewelry, like all the things make you very uncomfortable, which then can lead to being irritable and then not coming off across as either as a happy person at all anymore or less confident.
I love that. And I guess you add into that self-care in general. If you feel good about yourself, that's going to build confidence regardless.
Very true.
So especially if you're going to be on stage, if you're going to be speaking, if you're going to be doing anything, self-care matters, right?
It does matter.
So we talked about that piece. Any other bullet point? Okay, we got to talk about 4, 3, 2, 1.
Yep. And I think that, yep.
So 4, 3, 2, 1 is, this is about presentations. And the 4, 3, 2, 1 is a concept of some ideas you should have in the bag that you should have prepared at all times, so that if you meet somebody to sell a product to, if you have the elevator conversation, you're sitting next to somebody on a plane, you are going to be on stage in an interview or otherwise, it just makes you, in my opinion, invincible when it comes to being stumped or not knowing what to say or what to do, right? So all it is what number 4 is 4 would be 2 stories personally and 2 stories professionally. So you have 4 stories. Each professional and personally have 1 win and 1 loss. So a happy ending story, a being real, sharing pain story at work, a great outcome story at home, and a need improvement, personally, that's what I'm working on at home. By having some stories, you have the ability to tell people about who you are, what you're about, and stories are the most memorable way to communicate effectively.
They really
End
are.
of story. We were both reading a book right now, and this is a shout out to him because I did not particularly like this guy as a stage presence or a artist until I read this book, and now I've got a deep affinity for him. But Will Smith wrote a book called Will. And more importantly, if you are an Audible person, I'd highly recommend listening to Audible
100%.
because Will Smith reads it.
And
from a presentation perspective, what you'll hear through the book, hear through his reading, are everything we just listed off. Confidence demonstrates confidence. Being real, sharing pain. The guy talks about how when he was a kid and for years of his life that he was a coward. He says it on stage. And in this book, he writes about it. He makes fun of himself incessantly. He has learning lessons that he points out so we can learn from him.
Yes.
But he does all of it through stories after stories after stories.
With vivid detail.
And it's easy to remember. It's easy to relate to. It's easy to retain because it was storytelling. And so understand that telling stories, and specifically in the present tense, not the past tense, not back when I was a kid, this is what I did. But imagine I am sitting there on fire in science class in front of 30 people. I'm literally on fire. And my beloved teacher comes running up with his big man hands and he's putting the fire out. And like that is storytelling at its finest. And you've got to remember that the purpose is that if somebody asks you what your story is or anything like of the kind, what's about you, what about business, you got to have a story you can dive into.
And I think it's hard. I mean, I am not a great storyteller. If you wonder if you're a good storyteller, think about the way you tell jokes.
Yep.
Like a lot of times.
So I love that you said that because I'm funny and you're not. I'm a good storyteller. I'm just
Fact. When you have to explain why your joke is funny, it's a good indicator you are not a great storyteller.
I feel like this is therapy. This is fantastic.
So, just so you know.
You are actually a pretty good storyteller. I'll give that to you.
I really appreciate that. I feel like that is very much a pity compliment, and I'll take it anyway.
Getting better every year.
Getting better every year. It's hard. I feel like it's hard. And then you take it one step further, and it has to be in like present tense. Now I'm sweating again. Like it's just a very, very challenging thing. So it takes practice. And when you can, when you recognize a great storyteller, there's a lot of appreciation for it. And so when you go and listen to this book, Will, Josh, it was chapter 2 that just like, I'm like, he has to read this because he talks about his imagination and how, I guess they went to church camp or something like that, him and his brothers and sisters. Summer camp. Yeah. And how they were saying, Will came home and said there was a band and trumpets playing and
dancers. It was amazing.
And his mom was like, really? And his sister goes, who stood by the jukebox all day? But that was his interpretation of it and the way that he turned. I guess, I don't know. I just thought it was beautiful. And I feel like you do the same thing really well. Like, here's your interpretation of like how great something was.
I love it. I'm not sure if that was a backhanded compliment, but we'll take it for sure. It's still a compliment. I'll take it.
It was a storytelling. I tried to get there. I'm not a good storyteller.
Yeah. I'll be, let me use his personal lost story. So this might resonate with other people that are listening. Okay. So mind you, in theory, like I told my team this just this week, as a matter of fact, the reason why I like the book is I don't find, or I should say this differently, what is projected on screen and on the radio for a rapper is nothing, in my opinion, but machismo. Look at my car, look at my women, look at my money. That's my perception of a rapper. Okay. So mind you, Will Smith was originally DJ Jazzy Jeff in The Fresh Prince, right? So he's the Fresh Prince part of that story.
Right. And
so when Bryn said, hey, you got to read this book, I was like, I'm really just not interested in an egomaniac. I'm just not. Yeah. And the first chapter was The Wall. I think it was the second chapter was I Am a Coward. And so literally Will Smith says on audio in his book, he says, I am a coward. And it began when his mother got knocked out by his father in front of him. Fist comes across the face. Will Smith is standing over, his mother crying. Yeah. He's embarrassed because he doesn't stand up to his father. He's afraid of his father. His younger brother goes to attack the father to get in the way and protect mama. And that's when he knew he was a coward. Yeah. And a couple years go by and he's in East Philly and there's this, pedophile in the neighborhood. There's a child, what's it called? A child molester, somebody like that lives in the neighborhood, or a child sex offender that's in the neighborhood. And everyone knows about this guy and all the parents always warn the kids and all the kids know, like, don't go to that dude's house. And this one day Will's walking home and he sees a girl being lured into this sex offender's house. And he was so afraid that the sex offender saw him that he runs back to his house and he locks the closet door and he cries in the closet and doesn't tell anyone. Oh, yeah. And thank God another neighbor saw and intervened. Yeah. But I just don't see people sharing that level of pain in the format that he did. So, and mind you, he did this in a very early chapter in the book. First 3 chapters for sure was in there. And I remember listening to this and I was like, holy shit, this guy's got warts just like the rest of us, right? Like, and that's the pain that he built that was a propellant for his career because he always felt, his wife, Jada, was best friends with Tupac. So like not lovers ever, but like they were, might as well have been, they were inseparable apparently back in art school. And so Will Smith's talking about how I got the baddest motherfucker in the world that's a rapper that I'm competing with in my mind. And, I've never said a curse word in a rap ever.
Yes.
And, this is what I mean by the storytelling. And I'm giving you a secondhand story about a story. But some of you guys are like, holy crap, I got to read that book now because it resonated because it was a real story, but it was a real story about pain. So that step, is number 4, is have 4 stories, some professional wins, professional losses, personal wins, personal losses. And then you go to 3. 3 is statistics, right? Mm-hmm. You have to have 3 statistics because math and numbers, while, I always love the thought process of statistics are just like, you can torture the numbers to tell you whatever they want, whatever you want them to say. But that being said, real stats show that you are a professional and have more knowledge than people do. And they're more likely to listen to you because it's the, again, perception that you are the subject matter expert. And
Absolutely.
So if I, for example, am in real estate, which I am, and I know that last year the house prices in South Texas appreciate by 19% last year, and they're expected to appreciate about 1% per month in 2022. And I know that interest rates bottomed out 3 months ago, and they're expected to go up by a half point to a full point, and that will affect your monthly payment on a $300,000 property by somewhere in the order of about $200 a month. Then you're probably sitting there with your mouth open a little bit saying, I should probably listen to this guy. He probably knows what he's talking about, right?
He's very smart.
So the statistics are things that you can look up about your product, about your service, about your, things that you might be proud of, like last month for and by the way, we've had abysmal months in the past, but last month was the best customer service surveys we've ever gotten ever. We had 99.6% of our customer service said thumbs up. Yeah. And I was like, wow, that's something for my team to celebrate. So we did, but the point is that I can say a number, like whether it was 95% or 92% or 99%, and I know what that number is, tells my audience, my referring partner, my client that I'm in tune with my business or I'm in tune with my craft. So what are some stats that support your presentation? 2 or 3 of them, 3 would be a good goal to go into it with that you can drop throughout the presentation. Like if you use the CRM system, then you'll increase your conversion ratio by 12%. If you're selling CRM systems, right? If you do X, this is the percentage or the unit or the profitability increase that will happen with your company. My last company, I'm interviewing for a job right now. My last company gave me employee of the month 3 times in the 3 years I worked there, right? That's still a stat.
Yeah,
so,
for
sure. My GPA, if you're proud of it, was 4.4% or 4.4 out of a possible 5 or whatever.
Or mine was 1, and look how great I am now.
Yeah, that's part of the sharing pain part.
Look how far I've come.
Right. But stats do matter, and it shows your knowledge. And it's not these I thinks, it's the I knows.
Totally.
2 is quotes.
2 quotes.
Having 2 quotes that matter, right? You don't want to just throw out quotes that have nothing to do with your presentation, which I've actually seen before. And for sure detracts from the message, right? Have you seen those before?
It was probably mine.
No.
I'm like, and my quotes are...
So what you don't want to do is just Google
quotes.
awesome quotes and then just throw them into your presentation and hope it fucking sticks. Like, that's not what we're looking for.
Hey, make sure you look good, have a lot of tonality,
right.
a lot of energy.
Actually, that's a 70% chance of doing well on that one.
There you go.
But let's see. So last Wednesday I recorded a Wealth Wednesday, and one of the questions that came up is, if the stock market goes down, should I be getting out, or what do you think? And, I'm not a stockbroker, but one of the richest men in the world said, be greedy when people are fearful and be fearful when people are greedy. So I say, buy more of that shit.
Quote.
Right? So it's a quote that you're tying to somebody, an authority or a respected individual, that brings up what people think about you as well. Right. Especially if it's somebody that people might know, like, in the money world, Warren Buffett is arguably one of the best. Yeah. If you're in the auto space, dropping mics about Ford, right, or whatever, or I guess right now Elon Musk.
I was going to say
Elon Musk, quoting Elon Musk if you're in that space. But having a couple of quotes that are relevant to your presentation that say, hey, listen, this is my idea, but this guy says something similar, and I'm not a genius, but I'm going to listen to this guy, and so you should listen to me, right?
I love it.
And the last one, the number one, is having a good question, a great question. And in sales, I still argue that the what's your story is the best question, because people don't care how much you know till they know how much you care. And if you talk a lot about them, and you ask lots of questions about them, then they will eventually like you if you ask enough questions.
Totally.
And so the 4-3-2-1 for that presentation, that think about an interview or a one-on-one or a referring partner or a client or a audience, having 4-3-2-1 as a ongoing, always prepared. Anytime you can throw out this story or this quote or this stat or this question, just puts you in a position to have the perception that you are confident because you, that you're competent because you're confident because you didn't have to think about it.
I love it. And also, I also find that one challenging too, but,
which part?
All of it, all the 4, the 3, the 2, and the 1.
Well, I find that you tell better stories than you give yourself credit for. I know for sure, especially when it comes to the marketing side of things, you know your craft and the stats.
The
at the back
stats, yes. The stats,
for sure. You don't do a lot of quotes, but you're reading more, and so you're starting to.
Yeah.
And you ask lots of great questions.
That's true.
I would say
I rock it them all.
1 in 4 you're for sure great at. You actually ask better questions about people because you're more curious about people than even I am.
Better questions about people, yeah.
Well, your ability to sit down with a prospective referring partner and unravel or a prospective employee and really like figure out who they are in a 30-minute or 1 hour meeting is pretty freaking high up there.
Well, thanks.
That's true.
Thanks.
So don't just say you suck at it. Like you're better than you give yourself credit.
I said I find it challenging.
What I heard was I suck at this. You should listen to us. Hey, by the way, the last hour that you listened to, you just wasted your whole life.
Said it was challenging. Whatever, though. Oh my gosh.
You know, let's wrap up the final thoughts here. Here's the point. It's not all about money. It's not all about money. So I don't want you to hear me when I think that way when I say this, but it's interesting to me how much people, like, let's just use the NFL currently, or the NBA a couple of years ago, or the MLB years before that. I've heard many people say, I'm going to boycott the NFL because of the walkout, or I'm going to boycott MLB because they're bitching they don't get enough money and they're making millions of dollars playing a game. And my answer is, well, do you know why they make millions of dollars per game and you don't? And the answer is always like, yeah, I'd like to know. And it's because they're seen by millions of people per game. They're on every Sunday. There's millions of people watching them play. And that's why they make millions of bucks. And there's a reason why Will Smith made millions of dollars, whether you liked him or not, is because at one point he was the number one most bankable guy in Hollywood. And millions of people globally would go watch his movies or listen to his music. And so the reason I'm bringing this up is that the ability to get comfortable presenting, to start small but build up to bigger audiences over your career is going to have a direct impact on your ability to earn or keep your job.
I love that. I love that.
And I don't think people look at it that way. So I don't care if you're in IT and you hide behind a computer. If you talk to only one person and that person is your boss and that's the only person you interact with on a weekly and monthly basis, you're going to be limited in your career and your opportunities. If you're the same IT person that volunteers to train other IT people, now you've got 15 people that you're mentoring, you might get a management opportunity, right? So it goes from small to medium to large and then extra large in some cases if that's something that you're passionate about. But the presentation skills are what are easily developed over time. Not easy to do, but easily developed. Recognizing what you're doing incorrectly and paying attention and correcting it is a starting point. Having somebody critique your, like, I love that when you do a presentation, and you still do this actually, we'll do a presentation together, and then afterwards you don't go high five. You say, hey, what could I have done better?
Yeah, what do we want to change?
Right? What could I have done better? 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 That approach serves you well, and it will serve everyone else well if they're okay being real. Yeah. So don't just say, hey, drop the mic, I just crushed that interview. If you don't get the job, pick up the damn phone call back and say, hey, I really appreciate the opportunity. I understand that you went with somebody else. Could you tell me what I could have done better in my interview so I don't make the same mistake for the next interview?
I would be like, never mind, I changed my decision. I'm going to hire you.
I hope you listen to
instead.
that. Anyone that's looking for a job, like that's a real thing.
If somebody did that to me and asked for feedback, I would literally consider changing my decision.
Yep. And no one does it.
No one.
But whether you're onboarding a job, if you got fired from a job, hey, I don't agree with your decision, but I understand your decision. You're the boss.
Mm-hmm.
Could you tell me what I could have done differently or better so I don't make the same mistake with a future employer?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for letting me speak to you guys. There's a survey at the end. I'd like you to tell me what I did well that you want me that in a future presentation you think I should speak about again, and things that you think I could have done better, whether it has to do with the hotel, the food options, the length, the content, the presentation. Could you grade me? Because I can't fix what I don't know is broken.
Right.
The surveying a client after the fact. I love that some hotels will send you a survey or call you. Most don't. I love that the car industry has changed where there's compensation tied to getting surveys that are 100%, not just sell a car and good luck, right?
Mm-hmm.
So those are my final thoughts about presentations. Do you have anything else to add to that?
The only other thing I would add is, and it's just saying it in a little bit of a different way, is it puts you in a position to be prepared at all times, not only in a professional environment, but in a personal environment as well. That can open up a network opportunity that you didn't even know was a possibility. Sure. So this past weekend I was in Nashville and had the opportunity to go hang out at the most exclusive members only cigar club, and made a really good contact. And that would benefit a personal thing, like, for JDRF or whatever. But I do believe that it's because of these things, because of the questions, because of the confidence, because of the ability or willingness or comfort level in engaging and asking enough questions to get to the point where I could then make the connection is the reason. If you're not prepared for it,
I love that. All presentations are, so don't overthink it. All a presentation is the ability to communicate effectively a thought to an audience of 1 or of 1,000. It's just the ability to effectively communicate a thought. And so why wouldn't you work on it? I hope it helps you guys out.
I love it.
But
I love it.
Thank you for watching and listening to another episode of Sigman Sense. We like your comments.
We do like your comments.
Your feedback.
Tell us
if
what
there's
we could do
something you
better.
think we could do better, we'd love to hear it. Or if there's some
that.
content you'd like us to add, we'd love to deal with that as well.
For sure. Find us on all the social media platforms, including TikTok now, which is super exciting. And also email us at sigmansense@gmail.com and subscribe and keep on keeping on.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time.
Cheers.